When the German Empire was proclaimed in 1871, it was largely made up of client states of the powerful Kingdom of Prussia. The most obvious exception to that was the empire's second most influential component. The Kingdom of Bavaria was never conquered, and at best, Bavarians were wary of the Prussians. They were hardly eager to accept belligerent northern Protestants as Germany's leaders. So then, how did the Bavarians end up as subjects of the Prussian Kaisers? Why did Bavaria agree to join the German Empire? Well, the government in Munich and Bavaria's people were both persuaded and pressured into it. Through the 1800s, German unification was viewed coolly in Catholic Bavaria and by its ruling house of Wittelsbach. They weren't alone in that, with dozens of separate states covering the German-speaking world. It wasn't until the 1860s that Prussia, guided by the realpolitik of its minister-president Otto von Bismarck, maneuvered itself into a position to take charge. The German War, fought between rival Prussian and Austrian blocs in 1866, left Prussia undisputed as Germany's strongest power, and it rendered Bavaria allyless and exposed. The king had hoped to counter Berlin by rallying other South German states around Munich, but to coerce the Southerners into Prussia's orbit, in 1870, Bismarck provoked war with France. Prussia led the German states in smashing them, and in the Palace of Versailles, Germany's princes swore fealty to a united German Empire. Ludwig II, aged 18 when he became Bavaria's king in 1864, chose not to physically attend. Most of the states of the new empire were tiny, their rulers insignificant, and all the northern ones effectively already had bent the knee to Prussia. For his part, Bismarck made several special concessions to help soften Bavaria's loss of sovereignty. But he knew very well, and so did the humiliated Ludwig, that geopolitical reality had left them no choice but to submit. At one point, though, that was far from inevitable. Von Wittelsbach kings reigned independently in Bavaria for nearly 70 years, and before that, as princes for centuries. In times prior to Bismarck and Prussia, German unification had mostly been a liberal, reformist idea, one that rulers had successfully held down. From 1815 until the German War, all the states were members of a pan-German alliance, the German Confederation. Presided over by the Austrian Emperor, it was the brainchild of his Chancellor, Clemens von Metternich, who made it a force for the aristocratic, post-Napoleonic status quo. For the von Wittelsbachs of Bavaria, that was more than appealing. Until the Battle of Austerlitz was won by Napoleon, their feudal holdings had been among hundreds of German statelets within the Holy Roman Empire. Napoleon consolidated those into fewer, larger states. Bavaria became a kingdom, but a decade and a handful of wars later, Napoleon was on track to be made governor of some very tiny islands, and King Maximilian I ditched him to align with Austria. In common with the Austrians, Bavarians tended to be Catholic, and backing Metternich's confederal system secured the new kingdom's existence. Even beyond the royalty, though, not every 19th century German speaker wanted a single centralized Germany. Culture varied across the 30 or so pre-unification states. German dialects can border on being separate languages, and a Bavarian or an Austrian would sound very different from a Prussian. Christianity was ubiquitous, but Protestant and Catholic Germans often maintained a mutual suspicion of each other. Local communities generally were segregated along religious lines, while across Germany one would broadly be more likely to find Protestants in the north and Catholics in the south. Many Bavarians were foremost among those who increasingly saw German nationalism as veiled Prussian Protestant imperialism. The Peace of Prague at the end of the German War replaced Metternich's order with Bismarck's. The defeated Austrian Empire was left intact, in exchange for Prussian free reign elsewhere. This was not good news for Bavaria. From his allies and conquered Austrian ones, Bismarck established a centralized entity, the North German Confederation. Its presidency was vested in the King of Prussia, Wilhelm I, and power was exercised through the new position of Chancellor. Essentially, it was a league of Prussian puppets and a practical and legal precursor to the German Empire. It was apparent to Munich that Bismarck meant to have the South as well. Ludwig II was adamantly against that, but he lacked serious political skill, and there was also the matter of France under Napoleon III, who openly coveted expansion into Germany. Both outmatched Bavaria, and neither had cause to fear intervention by another power. The king's ministers variously sought negotiations with the North Germans. The Prince of Hohenlohe led the government for 3 years as a liberal pro-Prussian, or alternatively to realize a third viable German power. But the prospects of a South German Confederation never looked great. Besides Bavaria, the Peace of Prague left the Kingdom of Württemberg and the Grand Duchies of Baden and Hesse-Darmstadt independent. Bavaria saw itself as the natural leader of the four. The others weren't so keen. All of them, including Bavaria, had secretly agreed to back Prussia should a war with France break out, hence Bismarck set about fomenting one. Napoleon III was incensed into attacking Prussia in 1870, and Bavaria fell in line behind Berlin. The Battle of Sedan in September of 1870 effectively won the Franco-Prussian War for the German alliance. Nationalistic fervor soared across Germany in competition with regional identities, enough so to put serious domestic pressure on the Bavarian state. The middle and educated classes demanded German unification. The young King Ludwig began a retreat from public life. Negotiations with Bismarck were handled by his foreign minister, Otto von Brey-Steinberg, and his uncle, the future Prince Regent Luitpold. Any hope for a loose North-South association went nowhere, but they did win a privileged position for Munich as Prussia's second within the coming empire. Bavaria could keep its army, control of its railways, and some local jurisdiction over taxes and property rights. The Bavarian delegation to the executive Bundesrat would lead its committee on foreign affairs. To the king's disgust, Bismarck's price was that he write to every prince in Germany extolling the new imperial project. Without exception, their replies were in the affirmative. Compiled, those were forwarded to Wilhelm I of Prussia, with Ludwig prevailing upon him to claim the title of Kaiser. Now an imperial subject, but still King of Bavaria, Ludwig II focused on nearly bankrupting himself building castles. He was declared insane and deposed in 1886, only to turn up dead under suspicious circumstances the next day. In the century and a half since, Bavarian nationalism has always bubbled beneath the surface, spiking after both world wars. More than once, proposals were put forth to unite Bavarians with their Austrian cousins. Nothing like that ever went anywhere, with the exception of that time a nasty, mustachioed Austrian tried to conquer the world. To find out more about the Anschluss, Germany's takeover of Austria in 1938, you should check out the video to the left. Like with Bavaria and the Empire, Anschluss happened without a fight. Unlike for Bavaria, Austria's incorporation was only temporary. And, as always, thanks for watching Look Back History.